coronavirus hit, must have shaken things up a lot for everyone. But in particular, your workplace, you're used to being within arm's reach of your, data analysts, Desi, your physio, your sports scientist. Now you're at home, just like we're doing now, Zoom call. You're used to being really hands-on, full of energy, in and around your players. That's obviously changed things a lot when you went, in those early stages when COVID hit. Has this, although this has been a bit of a blemish on the last few years, did this give you a chance to reflect on maybe how your communication strategies are different in your work environment? And has this made you more empathetic when working with other professionals in other industries and what you're teaching?
Yeah, look, for me, it wasn't that big a transition for me because I believed I've always been good like that anyway. So, but what I do get is, yes, when we had to start doing a lot of communication through Zooms or making contact, you really had to be mindful of the shape and the language of that conversation. Because whilst we wanted to talk to you about training, where you were, did you get this done? The rowing sets, did we blah, blah, blah. We also had to show you, we understand where you are, how you're feeling, what you're going through, and we are going to come out of this, mate, and we're here. And instead of breaking that all down to split in half, have a nice talk, then a work talk, then a nice talk. Obviously, what I would do is roll it all into one. So the answer to your question is, yeah, you had to have an empathetic edge or understanding of what you were about to say, but at the same time, in order to really help you, I needed you to carry out this particular task, even if you weren't in a mental place to do so, because you might have been thinking, everybody was affected differently. Some of us thought, right, bang, let's get on with it. I was really fortunate that I was part of the original little group that met about the bio controls that we'd have to utilize and build. So I was a part of that process, and then it went on to bigger things, and it got quite involved until it was at national scale, and then we moved the teams. But for us, the skills that I learned the most during that time was definitely clarity around my communication, because those are the little fine skills when we're face to face we don't need, because we have gestures and movements and little irks and you can see them. That also works against you if you're on a screen. So just over the first few weeks, getting used to getting somebody in and sort of getting their buy into what you wanted them to do, without alarming them or without making it sound callous, like there was a distance. Actually, that's a good way to describe it. Removing this distance, like you and I are talking now. That's what it was about.
And I think that's the point I'm trying to get at is, when we're communicating over email, it's very easy to get lost in translation. Yeah. Think someone's being rude just by what you're reading now. But when you're in an environment like a high performance sport environment, like you are with the Seagulls, and you can see people, you can read their body language, you can see all their emotions, their anger, their tiredness, their stress, their anguish. So, surely that's made you a little bit more empathetic towards those other, I guess with your new career endeavors and trying to educate these other professionals in different environments. I think that probably taught you a lot. Hey.
Yeah, look, obviously it has. And I'm probably like one of those learners who sort of just soaks these things up, and probably until you've sort of listed them out for me there, and then I can look back and think, oh yeah, well, but they are things that I practice and that I do, and I didn't have to do them 3 years ago. Definitely not before COVID. But now that I'm working in that space, they're little skills that you've picked up every day, and now they've become hardwired. It's like part of my hardware now that I'm using. The students, they're different. Like, as you know, I work with students, and it's interesting you bring that point up, because the face-to-face and hands-on with them is more about mentoring and nurturing and get them to flourish. and then working with the organizations, the first thing they've got to do is understand, where's this guy coming from?
Yeah.
Where's he coming from? Because you can very quickly overwhelm them. They're like, geez, man, I just couldn't. Well, he's too much. You got to break it down a bit, and then you got to convince them that, in a positive way, not a negative way, but in a positive way, mate, there's more in you. You need to come up a notch. And if you've got luckily for me, because I've had success in sport and I'm associated with successful people around sport, I get a lot more leeway than say other people coming in.
Yep.
Because I've got a proven track record as such. But no, that's if empathy is the word, then without a doubt.
And mate, you copped a bit of scrutiny during that. I tell you what, I'm glad you chopped the bun.
And why was that? Why is that?
I think you look great the way you are, mate.
The bun was a funny story, Des and I, we were in lockdown, and we were up there in Twin Waters, and there was only a player. I think it was who was it? One of the players, Dylan Walker, was giving out haircuts, so we weren't going there. But then eventually, even when it all opened up, we still didn't go out. We pretty much stayed in there, even when the lockdown was down, and just did our work. But my hair just grew. Like it was like this when I went there, and then just over those months it just grew, and it was just sticking out everywhere, And I started looking like, a bad version of Einstein, and a not so clever version of Einstein. But anyway, so I went into and I said, "Oh, come on, Leanne, my wife, it's time to cut it." So she grabbed it. She goes, "Oh God, there's so much." So she pulled it up and tied the top up, and then she just shaved around, and then she goes, "Just leave it like that for a while." But there's a little bit behind that. The actual bun on top of a Māori's head, is called a tiki tiki, and it actually has a cultural significance. To be honest with you, mine didn't. I didn't do it for that reason. But a lot of the warriors or those who have a strong Māori background and with their with their family and their lineage. So the story is that Maui, who's one of the great demigods of the Māori, who fished the Northern Island, now the sea. When he was a baby, his mother hid him from the enemy, and she cut off her hair and wrapped him up in it to hide him. And so now, if you see that ball on the top of the hair of a Māori, that's the tiki tiki. That's the significance of it. So it's not a man bun to us. Though
this is where the cultural sensitivity is important, isn't it? And understanding.
Well, yeah, it is. But I will freely admit to you, mine was the tiki tiki. Mine was a man bun. And an ugly one. Like and an ugly one. I'll take that one on the chin. I did cop a bit there, mate. We got it sorted out at the end. The club were fantastic. They really stood by me. The media, there was lots of different agendas. I don't blame anyone for anything. It was a tough time for everybody. People really were challenging themselves, their beliefs. The world was in a funny place. I've moved on, and I still stuck to my beliefs. And but I absolutely hold nothing against the fears and beliefs of other people in those times. That's fine. We've all come out the other end, and we're all better for it in some way. So
yeah, I'm sure it's something the players have had to learn to deal with scrutiny. When you're always in the spotlight in a sport like the NRL, that's a business, and it's in everyone's face.
Yeah.
So
well, there's probably something you'll speak about later, where that's where I would have repaid my men, because every single one of my men, sent me a personal message about how they would stand with me behind what my beliefs were, because that was me, and they knew that I was, because I was one of the more senior people involved in the whole protection process of COVID. But the media didn't know that, because, I wouldn't speak to them, but they didn't know that. So a lot of the stuff they were throwing at me, was. But hey, that's done. But the men
didn't have much to write about at the time, so they'll probably just.
They did mention my hair though.